call to order the February 26th meeting of the Historic Landmarks Commission. The first item on the agenda is a public comment. Any member of the public may address our commission for up to 2 minutes on any subject that's within our jurisdiction that's not scheduled on today's agenda. Seeing no public comment, I will close public comment and go to approval of the minutes of the Historic Landmarks Commission meeting of February 12th, 2014. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
We have a motion by Murray, a second by Mahan. Under discussion, Ms. Arias.
Page 7, condition or comments 6 and 7. They're a little confusing, and I want to make sure that the landscaping, significant landscaping, is clearly specified at the wall.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
6 and 7 seems to be a little confusing, and we did say significant landscaping.
So I think the way to clarify that would be to add the word significant between adding and landscape on item 6. So it should say adding significant landscape to the east elevation against the Museum of Art is essential.
Yeah.
And I would leave 7 just as it is because that is tied to the width.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Mahan.
I would suggest that on item number 7 there that you were just talking about, that we make sure that since we've gone from 12 feet to 10 feet, that the 2 feet is added on the side of the museum, not on the side of the library, so that we get a significant planter area there for the significant landscaping.
Can I suggest then that the dimension of the paseo behind the Museum of Art shall be 10 feet wide with the 2 feet added to increase significant planting on the museum side, including Kencha, Howia, palms. Does that sit with you, Mr. Mahan?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Any additions, corrections, or clarifications?
Yeah.
I'll get to you in a minute, Mr. DeForest. I want to make sure all of the commissioners had a chance to comment. Seeing no one, I'll go to Mr. DeForest. Mr. DeForest.
They missed on page 7 in this quarter B. I wanted the paseo width to be narrowed, not widened.
Okay. Okay, so that's the last sentence. He asked that the current width of the paseo off of Anapamu be narrowed.
No, he asked that the current width of the paseo that is proposed be narrowed.
Okay. I just added the words off of Anapamu, so we're clear as to which paseo it was.
Paseo,
yeah. Staff got that? Okay, all in favor of...
Excuse me, Mr.
Yes,
Chair.
Commissioner Mahan.
One more comment on...
Go right ahead.
On page 9, item
8.
4.
Motion 4.
The motion, the commission, the actions, The building has not decided what it wants to be. I think that was Bill Lavoie was talking about, that it had not yet found its soul, I think were actually the words he used. The proposed awnings, etc., in the next sentence it says, if a modernist expression is desired, there should be consistency throughout. I drove by today to look at that building, and the front facade, especially the southern portion of it, is definitely Spanish. And I don't think we should lead the applicant in our comments toward a modernist expression. I don't think that's ever going to work, and I think that trails off into just nothing but inconsistency.
Okay. Mr. Lamone, I think, has something to add to that. Mr. Lamone?
I did. I did have a difficult time with this item when we were reviewing the minutes. Gabriella pointed out to me that when this item was reviewed, we didn't really make a motion to summarize the comments, and therefore that's why you see the comments that were attributed to the individual commissioners. That's very rare that we do that on a project. So I reminded the chair that although the meeting might get long, that we really need to identify not only for the record, but also for the applicant, the clear direction that this commission has for them, because otherwise they leave the meeting thinking only one commissioner feels in this manner, and they could debate it and argue it. And so it's really important to either include a straw vote or a consensus on any direction you give. Now that we have the minutes, we can clarify your comments or your intent, because the motion did not include that information. So I'm curious to see what type of clear direction you could create from these comments.
Okay.
For the record.
I also want to add to what you said, Mr. Limon, that the commission needs to be very clear and very consistent with, if we feel the applicant has not responded to our previous comments, that we need to make them aware that they have not responded to our previous comments, unless it's a different application altogether. I had attempted a reconfiguration of these meetings. I was sort of hoping that would have been in the minutes, since we got them just today, or that we had the hard copy today. I don't have a printout of those to read to you, but it's something that I recognized needed some clarification, and emailed those to Mr. Limon. I could attempt to pull those up, but
Well, maybe for the record is maybe get a consensus that all the statements are accurate, and it is the consensus of the board to point the applicant in that direction. And if there is a debate about it, this is the time to straighten the record out, saying only one commissioner felt this way. And maybe we can apply a straw vote to the record that indicates if everyone's in agreement with all the comments. If you're not, this would be the time to indicate that there is not a consensus.
okay. Do I have any comments from the commission, or should I just jump in?
I have
Yes,
a comment.
Commissioner Drury.
I looked at the video and read the minutes of that meeting 2 weeks ago, and you were very specific about them not really responding to those comments that we made the first time that came before us.
That's an additional direction you could state for the record. I mean, you could include that they did not respond to
The
your
method I did
direction.
it, granted, was rather rude, but I did it. I did.
It wasn't rude. It was specific
Well.
and necessary.
Okay.
I do have one comment.
Ms. Hernandez.
Thank you, Chair Suding. I do have the archive drawings here that show the point in time that it went from its original front elevation in 1984. It was approved to when they kind of added the new awning and that corner. And it's just important to keep in mind that it was put on the potentials list as this dealership with this sweeping streamline form on the front, and I have the pictures, and I think that's what we should keep in mind as we move. If they provide any alterations to that front elevation, when you see the original drawing, it does have this very elegant front. That's in 1984 is when it got
And
diminished, but we can't require them to do that until they come in for a project on that elevation.
when was it put on the potential list?
1978, and that
That was
addition.
then before the 1970, or
It was-
excuse me, the 1998, or
1980, yeah, and it was approved by the Landmark Committee back then.
Let me clarify.
So it was an
that.
approved
Okay, 'cause
alteration.
that gets confusing,
It was an approved
'cause
alteration.
Go ahead,
It was
Mr. Limon.
actually the ABR's jurisdiction. The committee, the Landmarks Committee, was an advisory committee at the time, so essentially rubber stamping or ABR's approvals. So I don't think the building had the true benefit of the commission's historic review
in 1974.
in
No,
84.
Okay.
So now you have to basically assume that what the ABR approved was something that was acceptable at the time, and understand if they intend to modify it or make it more consistent with the rear, that this would be the direction to correct it. But what I was hoping Nicole could do is give you the benefit of giving you some history on the alterations, because we never triggered a structures report for this project.
Right.
So therefore, you sort of have to come to the conclusion of, are you pushing it towards it away from its historic appearance, and is that a good thing for this building? Can it still retain its historic significance if you push it further away from its original? And that's what Nicole's mentioning to you, what it originally. And so I think it would be beneficial as you review the project next time to open up the previous plans as you proceed.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Mr. Chair,
Which would be today.
I have
is
them
today,
for you.
yes.
Yeah,
Well,
and I'm
we can do that. You can do that now, I guess, if you want.
I was on the ADR in 1986. I don't remember this project specifically, but I don't believe that at the time this. You're on. I don't believe at the time that this part of Chapala Street was in El Pueblo Viejo. And the Historic Landmarks Committee might have made given us a report on it because of its significance. It was one of the first buildings to be built after the Second World War.
Chevrolet
which is very
dealership.
and because that south portions are Spanish, that's very, very untypical. Most of the architecture after the Second World War, at least for 20 years, was all modern. And so, they may have been interested in that, but that was not in the El Pueblo Viejo at the time. That was before El Pueblo Viejo expanded, and so the ABR looked at it as a contemporary addition to, on Chapala Street, and we weren't very sensitive at that time to Chapala Street being a traditional part of downtown. Now it's different. Now it is in El Pueblo Viejo, and it does have these Spanish elements, and I think we have to be very careful that we don't drift off.
I do want to express to the applicant and to the public that we are discussing this as part of the minutes, not as part of a review of this project without them being present. This is under the umbrella of approval of the minutes, so we need to clarify our minutes and get those tightened up. So that's what this discussion is about. What is the pleasure then of the commission on the minutes?
I think, if I can interrupt, is there any objection to any statement made that a commissioner disagrees with?
I heard one commissioner say that.
We have one.
Yeah, item 4, the last sentence. If modernism expression is desired, there should be consistent throughout and an architectural refinement along with adherence to the design guidelines. That's the one sentence that I sort of heard.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Rios?
perhaps we could approve the minutes and table this item until our next meeting and have the revised minutes in front of us for this project.
Rather than try to reconstruct them here.
Reconstruct them at this time.
I agree with that, Mr. Chair.
Anybody have any objection to that?
Yeah.
You do?
I would like to hear if Mr. Lamone, if that could work.
And the idea would be to, when that project is reviewed again, or when would you like to reopen
They
the
would
discussion?
have to come at the next meeting.
They're scheduled for today.
Okay, and invite the applicant. Is that possible, you think, to invite the applicant?
Yeah, I just called them to say, please watch.
Okay.
I'm not going to get off this.
Okay.
'Cause I wasn't here last.
So we'll tentatively schedule it for the applicant and give them the benefit of coming in and participating in that discussion.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's the benefit of the applicant if you're more clear. So I think
Yeah, I
that
think
would be
so,
helpful
because,
to give clear direction.
maybe that'll all be cleared up.
And I
Right.
apologize to the commission and to the applicant. That was my duty to get a consensus, and I failed to do that. My apologies.
So, yeah, we can do
I'll
that.
put a motion on the floor to approve the minutes with the exception of the
item
There's
9.
actually already a motion on the floor, so if we can make a substitute motion?
substitute
Thank you.
motion to approve the minutes with the exception of 1003 Santa Barbara Street.
No.
No, 608.
Item 9, 608, and 614
Oh,
Chapala.
I'm sorry, I got my thing.
That's all right.
Item 9. yeah.
Page 10.
Yeah, right.
So we're going to table item 9, the approval of those minutes,
Until
2 weeks. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
And a second from Sharp. I never did take a vote on the first motion, but I guess that's okay if a substitute motion is made. Okay, all in favor of the substitute motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain.
I'll abstain.
Okay, so we have Lavoie abstaining
I'm
and
abstaining.
Drury abstaining. Drury is abstaining because of he was absent. Okay. Does that satisfy? All right, next item on the agenda then is the consent calendar. Ms. Gantz.
Mr. Chair, item A at 1220 Chapala Street was granted project design approval and final approval as submitted. And with a note that future like projects will be, can receive an administrative staff approval unless additional circumstances would require consent review, but this particular project was light fixtures and poles, pole replacement in parking lot 5. So, Terry Green had requested, and I think it's advisable that future projects proposing those same types of fixtures would be able to be given an administrative approval by HLC staff in the future. So I also asked her to hold on to that master app number just for homework, for back record keeping for us, for staff. It'd probably be easier to quicker to find. So anyway, that's that.
Fine.
Item B at 128 East Cannon, Perdido Street was final approval of the review after final as noted. Item C at 514 State Street was granted final approval as submitted. Item D at 9 West Haley was final approval as submitted. Item E at 1318 Morrison Avenue, final approval as submitted. And 1017A State Street, item F, final approval as submitted of the review after final. Those were all reviewed by Commissioner Sharp.
Thank you, Mr. Sharp, for taking the time to do that. It's appreciated. Do I have a motion to ratify the consent calendar?
Second.
I have a motion by Lavoie, second by Murray. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Suding steps down from item D, 9 West Haley Street. Okay. Next item on the agenda is announcements. Request by applicants is for continuances, withdrawals, anything that is on the radar for Planning Commission or City Council that the Commission needs to be aware of.
The only announcement I have is Commissioner Winnick is absent from today's meeting, and I believe Mr. Lamone has some announcements.
Yes. If you haven't heard yet, there will be some staffing changes. And I wanted to explain to the Commission why these staffing changes will be occurring. One is we did get a promotion in my section, which created a vacancy for a design review technician at the Single Family Design Board because in order to fill the spots, I am going to rotate Susan out of the Historic Landmarks Commission staffing role to the ABR. And the nice thing about it is you'll be having Michelle Bedard in the back here, who's very experienced. She's actually staffed the ABR and the Single Family Design Board, has yet to staff the Historic Landmarks Commission. So
We actually did have her as a substitute.
yeah, she has substitute.
Well,
So
she
she's
was awful.
so what I'm indicating to you is it's better than having a new employee that is really not experienced. I expect that transition to go well.
Seamless.
And the other thing that I wanted to share with you is Susan will benefit from that change. I think she will actually be involved with other types of projects that could be helpful for her career also as she moves forward in the organization. And we'd like to cross-train everyone. So if you bear with us, I think we can function just as well with these rotations to occur. So I just wanted to let the Commission. I'd like to thank Susan for, I think, 7.5 years or 8. How many years did you staff? 9. See, time.
And her hair has not gotten any more gray than it did when she started.
So just wanted to let you know that happening.
All right. Are we continuing then item 4, 608, 614 Chapala, or are we going to hear it today, even though we're tabling the minutes?
It is on the agenda.
Okay.
The applicant was in the audience, and she didn't come over and say she would like it
Okay.
postponed,
Okay. So we're just
I assume we're
without the
continuing
without
on.
the finalized minutes.
Correct.
We're gonna. Okay. Just wanted to be
Mr.
clear
Chair,
on it.
I just want to say endless thank you, Susan, for just outstanding work.
Oh, absolutely.
You get so dependent on people like that. It's sort of like, what are you going to do when they leave? But I'm sure it will all be really nice. I just want to recognize her outstanding
Thank you.
Thank you.
work.
Thank you.
Under subcommittee.
I couldn't agree more. No, I mean, yeah, and your dedication and your devotion,
Okay.
not just your ability, but the dedication and the devotion, I think Your attendance record is stellar. It just goes to the fiber of the person that you are, and I'm glad that you are staying within the city. I'm glad you're not moving, because we'll get an opportunity to run across you every now and then,
That's
All
right.
right.
or to cross you.
Which is really a bad idea.
It's been a pleasure. It's been a privilege to staff over 200 HLC meetings in that amount of time for such an honorable group of people volunteers who are preserving this beautiful city and our history and the charm and everything that makes Santa Barbara what it is. It stops here. So
Thank you.
it's been great.
And it's
Love
teamwork.
you.
We
I
couldn't
miss
have
you
we
guys.
couldn't have done it without you. Yeah, we know you will miss us, and we'll miss you too. All right, enough said. Subcommittee reports. Any?
I have one more announcement.
Oh, yes. Announcement.
It has been brought to my attention that there is a city plaque that is going on the Coda sycamore tree up by the mission.
Oh.
And there were some concerns, but I wanted to let you know that the commission did review the design of these plaques that are dedicating a tree to somebody in 2010. So the design has been approved, and it's going to be at the base of that
Great.
tree.
Wonderful.
And that.
It deserves some recognition.
Not nail on the tree, but
Yes, Commissioner Rios?
It is in El Pueblo Viejo,
It is.
and we won't be reviewing it on that basis?
No.
It was reviewed.
We've already reviewed the design.
The plaque was reviewed, not the location.
And
Mr.
then-
Do we
Limon?
have a clarification
That
of
was
that?
before Mr.
Yes.
Hernandez's time, so
Yes,
Mr. Limon.
That a plaque program is been in existence for quite some time. They have different types of recognition to name in honor of persons. I think they even have for benches. I mean, there's different locations. Even in the golf course, they've done something. Anyways, the park system has that. So they did come to the city saying, we want to install these when the occasion arises. There was not a direction at the time to say that this plaque would have to return at every installation. So unless this commission is objecting to this location, the direction I'm giving Tim Downey and Parks is that they can proceed without any approvals throughout the city.
I think Mrs. Arias was more concerned about where it was going to be placed in and around the tree.
Where exactly you want to have
Is that correct,
some?
Mr.
Yes,
Arias?
that's correct.
I can get that information and have it reviewed if
That
you'd like.
perhaps should be an
as a
information
check.
item, just so we don't run into
Okay.
any
Okay. we
difficulty
can do
after
that.
it's been installed.
That's fine.
I have a couple of other items.
Yes.
It's on the agenda that I asked a request on the report of defense for the Garden Academy. I've heard nothing. And hang on. And the other question is the update on the fence and an update on the stone pines.
Okay, so remind staff that we are looking for an update on the fence at the Garden Street Academy and an update on the condition and the
Stone pines on Antelope Road.
the action plan for the stone pines, for preserving the stone pines.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I can just quickly
Ms.
address
Gantz?
the first item. I did send an inquiry to Mike Rose,
Uh-huh.
the planner for
Right.
Garden Street Academy, and I've not heard back from her.
Okay.
That was it was probably about a week and a half ago.
Okay.
yeah, we'll continue.
Thank you for remembering that, Commissioner Rios. Anyone else have any announcements?
Mr. Chair, I do
Mr.
want
Limon.
to, at this time, bring up a quick discussion on a request that I believe Commissioner Rios raised about the plan submittals and the number of plans that are being reviewed by the commission. And I understand this is a larger group, and therefore maybe 3 plans may not be enough. So there was a suggestion that we introduce a 4th. I did test it out, so I think 4 could work. There's some overlap that might happen with the plans that are larger. If that's a submittal standard that you would like to increase, I do typically work with the AIA to get them to understand there's additional costs for printing and so forth.
Yeah.
The other idea was a smaller set. I know at some point the architects had come to the city and said, we could save a lot of paper if we submit smaller sets. I think 11 by 17 or 10 by 18. I guess some printers allow for that reduction. But when I brought it, I believe, to the commission or the boards, there was a consensus at the time that these reduced copies are hard to scale, and that
Hard to
sometimes
scale.
they're half scale and you can't scale if you reduce. And so it was rejected as an option to submit. But if we have a larger scale,
At least one copy.
at least one copy, we could always refer to it. So the question I have for you is, if I were to contact the AIA and say this is an additional submittal standard that we're going to implement for the commission, do you want it to be 4 regular size drawings or 3 and 1 small? And would that work? Who gets the small? That type of thing. I don't want it.
Personally, I think, and I'm just going to weigh in before everybody else, but I think that we need the 1 full-size copy and then 3 copies of half scale, not necessarily 11 by 17 or 18 by 24, but half scale, whatever size that may be, because 30 by 42 reduces to half scale, different than 24 by 36. Those are 2 standard sizes of plans that I use, but it needs to be half scale, not just specific sheet size, but half scale. That way, everybody can get a chance to look at them. If they can't see them, they can always come to stand over my shoulder or whatever and look at the plans or focus in on that. But at least they get a chance to look at them closely.
Yes.
So correct me, is half scale readily available for the printing?
Yeah.
Okay.
They just reduce it 50%.
Okay, and so you're saying 3 half scale, 1 regular size?
Correct.
Is that what I'm hearing would
Correct.
be acceptable?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'd see 3 down here, and 2 down here, and at least 1 down here, and then the middle one here.
Okay. So we'll work towards implementing that standard.
I
There
think
was
that's
another
about the
point
same
that
amount of
I
paper.
raised.
Yes, I'm going to raise that, bring that up. The second point was the introduction of minutes to commissioners in
Summary.
advance, summary. And that's a much trickier endeavor because I know that we do read the minutes at the meeting, and having to route minutes in advance does present additional workload for my staff to have to do that. So I thought that the compromise solution would be to give multiple copies to commissioners at the time of the hearing and have them right in front of you if you want to refer to them. I know it's difficult to remember. And also emphasize that the applicant's responsibility, as you read these minutes, is to respond to every comment. And I think sometimes that isn't done necessarily with their presentation. So the idea of reading the minutes is so you can respond to each, and they should say under item I, this is how I responded, and that way you get a clear understanding of what they're responding to, each item, item A, item B, item C, whatever. So we will do our best to get multiple copies.
Okay.
It'll take us a time to get that going.
But I think handing them out at the meeting is sufficient rather than having to mail the summary. Does everybody have their summary?
Yeah.
It's different than the minutes. It clearly says summary notes for members, and this is summary notes for items that are on today's agenda. Okay, everybody got that? Okay. I think it's helpful as well. I have one announcement. I'm going to need to leave for a short time at 2:30. I don't imagine it'll be more than 10, 15 minutes. Any subcommittee reports? None? Then let's go on to the first item, which is, Mr.
It's
Schallenberger.
kind of an aside, but on the stone pine thing, I noticed driving by the other day, the corner of Garden, I think it's Olive and Anapamu.
There's a new stop sign there.
Well, there's the new stone pine, the replaced smaller, and it was just sort of a thought of, we'll watch this one grow, and you see all the mature ones down the street, and then the sapling. It's new history.
I noticed the new one planted too, and I think it's actually at the corner of Garden and Anapamu, right in front of the church.
And the one next to it is dead.
Is already starting to die. Yeah,
It's dead.
And there's more that are dead or dying. In any case, I think we do need to get an update on where we're going.
Get an update, and I understand that the Pearl Chase Society is looking into it too, if I'm correct.
They're looking into hiring an arborist to give an independent evaluation.
Yeah.
Okay. First item is a discussion item on draft historic architecture styles guide, and want to remind the commission that we are 15 minutes behind. Ms. Hernandez.
Yes, this historic architectural styles guide was drawn and designed by Harrison Design. Anthony Grumbine came earlier this year.
Excuse me, Ms. Feliciano, could you get screen, please? Go ahead, Ms. Hernandez.
He came actually early 2013 and did a presentation of how he designed this guide. And he started working with Jake on it, and then I came in and we did some fine-tuning, and I worked with the subcommittee, the Historic Resources Design Guidelines subcommittee, and we've all reviewed it as well as internally as staff, and they are ready to be finalized. And we want to put this half of the design guidelines on the internet because this is going to be an appendix because it's just telling you what styles we have in Santa Barbara, and then we're going to have full historic resource design guidelines that guide each element of a historic resource as the main document. So you're going to see this is one section, and then you'll see the other section. As this section's ready to go, and we've had such a wonderful volunteer effort, we'd like to have this ready to put on our website so it can be a reference until the whole document is ready to go and adopted by council. And I should clarify that this is just a guide to our styles. It's not really a guideline like the other section will be guidelines. Do this, do that, do this, do that. This just tells you what our styles are. Yes.
Okay. All right. Question. I need to open public comment first. Mr. DeForest.
Yes. Good afternoon. This is very nice. But the problem is, except if you look in small print, the most prevalent historic architectural thing, I think that it is just a selection of architectural styles present in Santa Barbara should be made clearer. So the impression, especially from the title, that this is it, and there are not any other architectural styles, or the other architectural styles are not important. So I think that should be made clear. I'm concerned about there is no reference to Adobe, both either the historic Adobe or modern Adobe that came in after, that has been constructed from time to time. There's no reference to now that 50 years have gone by, to California ranch style, pioneered by Cliff May. And those are very prevalent. I don't know how architecturally good they are, but there are plenty of them and should be mentioned. And also no reference to the international style or any streamlined modern or any other of those styles that they are examples of here in Santa Barbara. Thank you.
Okay. Does staff want to respond to that?
Yes, I would like to. I think Nicole may comment on my comments. But when these were first contemplated, we had over 20 styles that were identified in the city. And we needed to make an effort to use our volunteer help in the best possible way. So the idea was to, over time, expand into these styles. So we don't believe that this is finished yet. This is a work in progress. And as time goes on, if we have the benefit of Mr. Grambine's help, we do expand. We plan to expand it into other styles. And maybe we can identify a continued assistance with a subcommittee to identify which ones have priority. It might be like Mr. DeForest says, Adobe might be the next one that you'd like to see, or however. So as time permits, we will expand it.
And that statement perhaps should be in here, that it's a work in progress and that it's going to be expanded.
Yeah,
I think
and that's what they are. They are drafts, and we expect them to be refined over time. If you see something, we can tweak it, add it,
Right.
expand it,
That's
and adjust it as time allows.
helpful.
I think
Ms.
that's.
Hernandez.
Thank you. I think that the idea is that this would be the cover page when you go on our website, and you can click on each style, and it'll pull you right to that style. And that way it's easily expandable, because most people will reference these on the internet, and it will be easy for us to
We could
add.
we could actually add other styles and say under development if you would like. But
That's
really,
I think
No,
just a statement that, because if I hit a dead end page under
Right.
construction, I
Right.
get frustrated.
right,
It is.
but they haven't begun yet.
Yeah, so I think it's just a statement, says it's a
Okay.
work in progress. Okay, any other public comment? I see none, so I'll close public comment and go to the commission for questions. I believe Mr. Rios had a question.
My question was answered by Mr. Limon. I would urge that there be a comment in there about additional work. I think it's important because the Adobes are very important and they're not in here. And so I think it's a really good document, but it does need the work in progress statement.
Any other commissioners have any differing questions? Okay, let's start with Commissioner Schauber. Different question.
Just out of curiosity, have you looked at other cities' examples of this type of document?
Yes, exhaustively. But actually, I worked on a set in New Orleans. We did one, and we looked at Los Angeles has one. We've looked at many different ones. Pasadena's, yeah.
Okay, so the
Santa
answer to that
Ana
question
has
is
a.
yes.
We looked at Santa Ana. We've really tried to compare and see what other people.
Mr. Mahan, any questions?
Yeah, are these different styles, most of them being, based on Victorian, do they exist in El Pueblo Viejo? Specific buildings in these styles?
Some of them do not. I wouldn't say that all of them do.
landmark buildings.
That's a good point. Yeah, they may not
There was-
exist
yeah.
within El Pueblo Viejo, but they are landmarked maybe outside of El
Yeah,
Pueblo
well, I
Viejo.
understand that,
Okay.
okay. The question is, are some of these styles specifically in historic landmarks in the El Pueblo Viejo?
Yes.
Yes.
That's my question.
Okay.
But this guide is citywide, right?
It's citywide
I understand that.
for big and small.
Okay. Any other questions? How about comments? Yes, Commissioner Mahan.
Well, if some of these, these examples are in El Pueblo Viejo, there is some problem with our ordinance, with our El Pueblo Viejo ordinance, and also with the charter, which directs us to do, to be compatible with 3 styles. And by the way, that brings up the issue of priority of when you open up the El Pueblo Viejo ordinance, it says, new design shall be compatible with either Spanish colonial revival, which is in here, or a Monterey style or Adobe style. Those 2 are not in here, and it would seem to me they would be top priorities if somebody's going to go to their computer and look for what to do.
Yes.
So I think that's one important consideration. The other one is if a specific, really significant building, a Victorian building, is in El Pueblo Viejo, how do we deal with that and still meet the intentions of our guidelines and also the charter and the ordinance?
Chair, I have a response for that.
Go ahead, Mr. Lamone.
We have to update Mr. Mahan because we did amend the ordinance, I believe, in 2007, and one of the amendments dealt with that very issue because historically the commission had no alternative because the ordinance dictated these styles other than landmarking the building or having a structure of merit status. So it was very unusual. You would give it a structure of merit status to allow that existing architectural style to remain in the district. So we fixed that by adding an additional language in our ordinance that talks about compatible architectural styles of excellent, if you want me to read it specifically, I'm trying to find it, that the commission could determine that there were exemplary styles of architecture that could be continued and additions made to those buildings to be compatible. And that allows the commission to deviate from the required architectural styles. So we do have that ability as the commission to maintain those styles.
Don't you? Oh, I was just going to expand on
Is it in response to Mr. Mahan's concern?
Yes.
Okay.
I was just going to use our example from last year. The El Prado Hotel is in El Pueblo Viejo,
Yes.
and it was designated so that it could retain its modern style in its own right and not have to conform to the Spanish colonial revival. I think that's a very clear example of how that new.
Since my ordinance is Planning Commission era, could you have somebody send me the revised El Pueblo Viejo ordinance? Email that to me.
Yes, let me just read it specifically, the section that was added. Notwithstanding these, there's actually more styles called out as required styles, but it says notwithstanding the subsection above, which requires these styles, alterations to existing structures with the EPV district may be permitted by the commission under the following circumstances. A, the commission determines the owner of the existing structure is proposing alterations or additions that match the original architectural style, and such alterations or additions do not significantly alter the structure. B, the commission determines the alteration or addition would be more compatible with the existing structure by matching and maintaining the existing architectural style, which demonstrates outstanding attention to architectural design, detail, material, or craftsmanship. So that's the decision you would need to make to continue those styles.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Commissioner Lavoie.
First of all, I think this is a great document. It was sort of like compressing 2 years of architectural history into one concise and the thing I like most about it is that I think I'm on. The thing I like most about it addresses not the massing of a building is as important of understanding the style as what you frost it with. And I think that's something lost in a lot of contemporary architects. I would suggest that in the Hispanic section that some reference for a more exhaustive discussion of that particular style of architecture to refer them to the HLC guidelines. Is it in there?
I thought I had added it to the intro
Okay, I'm
page,
sorry,
but
I may
it might have
not have
dropped
seen
off. Because you made that comment when you reviewed it before.
Okay.
It does say see the El Pueblo Viejo design guidelines for more detail of the style.
That brown background is troublesome.
There you go. Jaime thought so as well. Jaime thought so. Well, we're thinking of taking that off.
Yeah, take that off.
We're thinking of doing it like the first page.
Yeah, just make the font white on a white background. That ought to work.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think if you go to the intro, your first page, does it look like?
Yeah. White text.
It could do
excuse
just
me,
that without the box.
black text on white backgrounds works great. Works just fine.
Otherwise, I agree with Mr. Forrest's comments about as we move forward to include Adobe Monterey and subsequent styles. Great work. Thank you. Oh, sorry. She checked. She turned me off.
What?
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
You shouldn't even really be putting it on mute.
Turn me off.
Yeah, they just turned you on. All right. Okay. We digress. So, any other comments? I'm going to summarize then. Add statement to the document that discloses it's a work in progress and how it relates to the EPV guidelines. The document should ultimately include Adobe, Monterey, and Modern. Change.
Ranch.
Pardon me?
How
And
about
Ranch, among others, etc. Change the font on each style's introduction to be black on a white background for easy readability. And I want to thank the authors, Mr. Grumbine, Mr. Compton, and city staff for putting this together. And
One correction.
there is one correction on page 2 under the history. Ms. Murray says until 1972, Stearns Wharf had not, the earlier versions of the Italianate usually had very large weatherboards for siding, because until 1972, Stearns Wharf had not been built.
Yeah, that's small typo.
Small typo. I believe it's supposed to be 1872 on page 2. History. Thank you for catching that, Ms. Murray. All right. All in favor? No, this is just a discussion item. All right. Next on the agenda is a review after final for the 0 block of West Mason. This is proposal to replace the structurally deficient Mason Street Bridge over Mission Creek and increase channel capacity in accordance with the approved 2001 Lower Mission Creek Flood Control Project. This is a review after final for new pad-mounted electrical transformer, referred up from the January 29th, 2014 consent agenda. And I believe that I was the reviewer for that, and I had a concern that the structure on this property was listed as potential or contributing, and was told by staff that yes, it is indeed, but then I heard through the grapevine that it wasn't. And so I guess that's kind of what you guys are here for now, to straighten that out. The summary from the January 15th, 2014 consent agenda was the parking area changes are acceptable with the condition that the Washingtonia palm be relocated or replaced with a new 6-foot round trunk height palm. Proposed transformer location is not acceptable as proposed. Unable to make compatibility findings for fronting a structure that is listed on the city's potential list of historic resources. Staff is to schedule a site visit on city property for the commission to review the faux sandstone, which I think we've done. All right, please introduce yourselves for the record and give us a... excuse me, I'm going to back up to staff.
Quick comment
Miss
that,
Kennedy, please.
So this item is just the transformer. Like you said, all the other items have been covered. So I just wanted to make that clear. That's the only item. And then.
But I have these nifty new summaries. I got to read them.
Appreciate that.
Ms. Hernandez.
I have a couple quick comments. So we're trying to clear up this discrepancy of some of the surveys that come through. We had the original survey that we looked at when we went and looked at doing the West Beach Historic District. And the surveys that came in for the bridge that were also done by historians, that information was kind of not put compared to the original at my desk. So that was brought to my attention that a later survey had been done that found that this building has been majorly altered and no longer qualifies. So those two surveys were...
They had not congealed yet.
I had only seen one. I had not seen the other.
They had not.
So we have actually, one of our interns, actually Matt, who's here, went through all the bridge surveys and corrected every single one to make sure that all our surveys are consistent, if that helps. Because before they weren't consistent with each other. So anyway, so it's
you
not
said bridge surveys.
I call them bridge surveys. What?
Okay, because we're dealing with a bridge. Please don't call them bridge surveys. They're supplemental surveys, perhaps?
So they were the surveys of the surrounding parcels in relation to this Mason Street Bridge.
Okay.
Bridge area survey.
Yeah, because it's not the bridge that you surveyed.
You know, they were, right, they surveyed all the historic resources that would be...
Because we'd be in trouble if the bridges were historic.
Right, and the commission had, this was before my time here, so I'm piecing some of this back together. The commission had approved the surveys and their conclusions, and I hadn't seen that.
Okay.
I had only seen the 2000.
Everybody clear on that then?
Does that make sense? And now we are consistent and caught up.
Okay.
Yes.
So, please.
And I have reviewed the proposals and the options.
Okay. Please introduce yourselves and give us a brief presentation.
Okay, Commissioner Sitting Commissioners, I'm Linda Simiansky from Public Works Engineering. And
welcome.
This is John Lawson, who has actually done a lot of work on the Mason Street Bridge project.
Welcome. Do you have a pointer, please?
Yeah.
Please walk us through the project quickly.
Okay, so what we have in front of you are basically two plan sets from the Mason Street Bridge project. What we wanted to do was come back and give you some options for the placement of the transformer that we are proposing to put in this area. What we would like to do is underground a lot of the electrical in this area. You'll see from some pictures that we have coming up just why we want to do that. It's actually more than just aesthetics for the area. But our original proposal was to put the transformer on private property next to 20 West Mason Street. That was the one that we talked about, the potentially historic building. That was, we were asked to come back with some other options in addition to that one. So we have actually worked with Southern California Edison and have come up with another potential place for it. And that is actually across the street from there. It's actually at the backside of 28 West Cabrillo, and that's the Harborview Inn. We had looked at some other spots. When we get to the landscape plans, I will kind of show you where those are and why they didn't work out quite for us. But so that's the location based on the civil plan. So on the next page, you can see where those interact on the landscape plans.
Correct?
So...
Correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. So, like I said, the one that's on 20 West Mason is actually on private property. The one that is across the street on 28 West Cabrillo is actually within the city right-of-way. Those are the two sites that we've actually landed upon. We also looked across on the other side of the bridge. You'll see some small plantings on either side. There actually is not enough room in there with SCE clearances for us to get the transformers in there. So there was one other spot that we did look at. It was further down Mason Street towards Chapala. It would actually have to go in the right-of-way area, the planter area between the street and the sidewalk. It would be correct. It would be potentially in that area. It would be completely unscreened there, and it is also a potential hazard for people coming out of the driveway at 20 West Mason. So we feel that these two options are probably the best options that we can bring for you at this point in time. So if we move to the next page, what I wanted to show you on the top is actually what it looks like from Kimberly Street, looking towards Mason Street. At this particular point in time, you can see that there are a number of electrical wires and communication wires that string through that area. And those are the ones that we are looking to underground with putting in the transformer. So if you look down on the bottom, on the left-hand side, you'll see that we've actually taken out all of that to simulate what it would look like if we were to underground the wires in that area. I think even as important is the picture next to it. That is one of the sycamore trees in the area, and one of the things that undergrounding will allow to happen is to preserve some of these trees without being damaged when SCE comes in to actually do their maintenance. You can see in that picture that there are a number of limbs that have been trimmed and pruned and, otherwise taken care of. So, yeah, so I think that, this actually serves two purposes. So that's why we bring it before you. If you actually turn to the next page, we've tried to give you a couple of different views. The top two pictures are actually photoshopped pictures. We've tried to include the bridge rail that was approved and the channel wall that was approved for the Mason Street Bridge project, just to give you a little bit more practical picture of what these would look like in those two places. The one on the left-hand side on the top is what the transformer as it would be sitting next to 20 West Mason. Again, that is on private property. The way we've took the picture, it is fairly much in the foreground. If you were to just stand a little bit more towards the bridge, it is slightly hidden behind the building. So We actually do not show any screening of plants in front of it. Again, that is because of the SE clearances that we're required to have. We tried to tuck it back as far as we could into that corner and still maintain their clearances. So that we'll have the 3-foot clearance on either side, and behind it, it does require an 8.5-foot clearance in the front for them, which is why there's no screening in the front of it. But like I said, we tried to push it back as far as we could. So if you look at the picture on the left-hand side on the top, that is actually...
Right-hand side?
Yes, or I'm sorry, the right-hand side.
Our
It's
left,
my
their
left,
right.
I'm sorry. On the right-hand side, we've shown the transformer again. This is actually on the public right-of-way. There is approximately 10 feet from the corner of the bridge post back that is public right-of-way, and it kind of creates a triangle parcel there going back to meet the sidewalk. Again, we do not show any screening in front of this transformer because of the SCE regulations. There actually is a backflow preventer behind that transformer. It's a little tough to see in there, but it actually precludes us from putting this back any further. Our desire is to keep it on the public right-of-way and have all access from the public right-of-way. So again, there's no screening in front of that one. The middle picture on the bottom actually is standing at the end of Mason Street Bridge looking down towards Chapala Street. You can actually, I've actually put in 2 somewhat green squares representing the color that these transformers would be. And as you can see, they are going to be somewhat hidden by the bridge rail. And just to note that the bridge rail will not be quite as clear, when we put the new one in. And this is the old bridge rail. So, it will actually hide it a little bit more as you're looking down towards that way. The bottom picture on the left-hand side. Right-hand side, you want to go to that one first? It doesn't matter. On the left-hand side, again, 20 West Mason. This is looking down the sidewalk from Chapala Street towards the Mason Street Bridge. And you can see that there is a portion of the transformer that will actually probably be able to be seen as you're looking down the sidewalk that way. It is not the whole side of the transformer. It is screened slightly from the house. If you look on the right-hand side, you can see that looking down the sidewalk, you pretty much are going to have a full-on view of that transformer side. There really isn't anything there screening it. So those are the options that we've come up with for you.
Okay, thank you. All right, I will open public comment. Having no public speaker slips, I'll close public comment and bring it to the commission for questions. Anybody have any questions, burning questions? Mr. Mahan?
No.
No?
Actually,
Mr. Drury, I beg your pardon.
Mr. Mahan. As far as the city goes, do you have any preferences to either option?
We actually would prefer to put it on the side of 20 West Mason. That actually is our property right now. We actually do have the conduits in the bridge on that side. So we will need to do some extra trenching and some extra conduit to get it over to the other side.
So that's the side next to the blue house?
Correct.
Oh, right.
Correct.
This one here.
Yeah.
Option A. Option A.
Option 1 would be our preference.
All right, any other questions? Commissioner Schallenberger?
Does the option 1 and 2, looking west across Mason Street Bridge photo, is that photoshopped to represent the widened bridge? Does that width represent, or is that just the existing photo?
That is the existing bridge. So.
And then I'm curious on the first sheet, the survey.
Just a minute, let me get there.
Go ahead. How long have you had the survey information that is in gray, the halftone, all of the information on this plan that's in halftone?
Did you just recently complete the survey of the halftone information?
I could answer that, Chair Suding.
Yes, go ahead, please.
This base sheet of the gray colored lines was surveyed 2-3 years ago. So it wouldn't be it would be fairly recent in using them as for the plans.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Lavoie?
I'm confused. Option A, option 1, at 20 West Mason, is in public land? Looks like it's in private land.
They own this parcel right now.
You own the entire parcel.
The city does.
Yeah, correct. The city actually owns that parcel at this point in time. When the bridge project is done, that will actually be sold.
To a private party.
To a private party, yes.
So someone's going to end up with a nice, well, a reasonably interesting house with this huge transformer, like right by their front door. That's a very tiny site.
That is correct.
Good answer. Just short answers are best.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes.
Commissioner Schellenberger?
Might be one that you'd want to ask. But option B, why isn't there any proposed landscape screening to the west of the proposed location,
like in here,
which would mitigate the photograph you showed looking up, where you said it would be in full view? Like, why don't you just plant the area in front of that?
Or on the side of the transformer?
Yeah, right.
We actually have not proposed any landscaping for there. There's nothing in that area that irrigation-wise makes a good connection for us, which is why we're not planning on screening it. You know, in addition, it is not very far from a trash container area, the double-check detector that is there also. So we actually didn't plan to put any in there.
I just had one quick question on the photo on the third page. I guess it's the tree pruning near Mason Street Bridge. You mentioned that was a sycamore there. That sycamore, I think, is going away with the construction of the bridge unless they've reversed it and saved it.
No, you're correct, Commissioner Suding. That is the tree that is going to be going away. But I thought it was a good example of what happens to the trees over time.
Okay.
We actually will be planting some other sycamores to replace that in that area, and would like to prevent that from happening to the future ones.
By putting the transformer in, you're getting rid of those wires that require the pruning.
Correct.
Got it. All right. Any other questions? How about comments, Commissioner Schellenberger?
First, I really appreciate the effort to show, quote, what it will look like. I think those comments in the past on engineering projects have been taken to heart, so that this really does show. I think we can get a very good idea of what it will look like in either case. I think I'd prefer option B, just to cast a vote here, but option B/2. And I guess I'm okay. I screened or not, I understand the rationale for the thinking in that area. One comment, though, that I need to make, this really is a little ancillary, but I'm troubled by even seeing this plan. This overlay of new over existing was something that was asked for during the course of the approval process, and we were told that it didn't really exist, that we weren't to that level yet. And if we're going back 2 or 3 years, that's not a true statement. And this shows the drastic width increase in this bridge, that I am troubled because I'm not sure with this sort of graphic representation that the commission wouldn't have had different thoughts on the approval process. If you take and just draw a little line of where the existing bridge is versus where the new, and you see it in this overlay, to me it's drastic, and it's a huge difference in what that area is going to look like and how the adjacent resources are going to be impacted. So I know that that doesn't have anything to do with this current review, and I'm in favor of approving a pad-mounted transformer and applaud the mitigation measures with the overhead lines and everything, but that needs to be on the record, that if this was available, we should have been shown this.
Does anybody have any differing comments than Commissioner Schallenberger? Any differing comments?
Chair, no, I'm going to make somewhat the same comment in that I do think that option B is the best fit for that area, and I strongly agree with Commissioner Schallenberger about the overlay that we were told did not exist.
Okay, I'm going to summarize then. The Commission appreciates the presentation's completeness and the photo simulations. Option B is the preferred option. The survey information should have been presented to us when we reviewed and approved the Mason Street Bridge project. Somebody want to make a motion? Anyone?
For final approval after final, design approval and final approval.
Second.
Okay, motion by Lavoie, second by Schallenberger. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. You understand the motion?
We're going with option B.
Just asking if you understand the motion. Okay, I just want to make sure before you leave here. Okay, item 3. We are 8 minutes behind. This is 25 East Mason Street, request for final review. Project was last reviewed January 29th, 2014. The comments from that were that it was continued 2 weeks with these comments. The handrail, guardrail need to be more consistent with the style and period of the building. Proposed window should be more consistent with original windows. Detailing on the building should not be overdone. Where windows are proposed to be removed, infill the facade to carefully match surrounding surfaces. Maximize the landscaping both in-ground and in containers. The motion was made by Sharp. It was seconded by Murray. It was a 6-0 vote. Drury, Lavoie, and Arias were absent. The motion did carry. Please introduce yourself for the record and give us a brief presentation.
Happy wet Wednesday.
Is it raining already?
Yeah.
Great.
It's raining?
6 hours early. Good afternoon. Clay Rowe with the AB Design Studio, architect for the project. I had a pen somewhere around here, but
You can borrow Mr. Moorhan. No. Go ahead. Sorry.
So I know some of the board members weren't here. I'll use that. Weren't here last time that we were here, but I'd like to address the minutes. The minutes weren't available to us before today, so can I look at the minutes for a second? Oh, am I on? Sorry there. So the handrail, the windows, and the detailing on the building should not be overdone. Where windows are proposed to be removed, infill the facade carefully. So, and then maximize landscaping in both ground and in containers. So, thanks for that, Phil. Not a lot has changed in terms of the site plan. We do have a landscape plan, which we can get to towards the end. I will go to the elevations, which are on A 4.01.
Everybody got A 4.01? Not quite yet? All right.
One too many. So there was a comment, I believe, from Commissioner Schallenberger last time we were here about some of the other windows. So that I'll show you as we get to this, but we haven't changed anything on the front from what you've seen before. We're still trying to keep, those of you who weren't here, some of the existing material, existing windows in the building, and then adding new windows in strategic locations based on interior and sort of the structural bays of the building. If we look at, this is the Helena elevation, which here this hasn't changed from what you saw last time. I'll keep moving along. This is the back of the building, so here's where we've made some alterations based on the comments. One of the comments was the railing, which you see here. We've gone with sort of a metal picket fence with wood in between, wood pillars in between. Part of the idea of this fence here dovetails into the landscaping. We want to create a little bit more buffer here, so we want to plant up in this and get this to grow with some vining so that the back patio area has a little bit of buffer between the building and the train. Craig had a question about what was going on over here, so we corrected that issue. And then on this very page, this window that you see, this existing window that you see here, was one of the older replacement windows that we'll replace for a similar window that would match what's existing material out there today. This is the parking lot side, or the Anacapa elevation. And on Craig's comment from last time, these are two existing windows that are double hung that were replaced at some point. We are going to replace them with windows that match the historic material. And we've revised the railing design as well, but the rest of this hasn't changed. One of the things, actually, I might want to go back to the site plan as we get into this, but as part of this project, the tenant is very bike-centric. So as part of the project, we are proposing there's going to be a bike program within Sonos as for their multiple sites. And that we had this on the plan last time, so we did bring some of this information to show you. We've also added a tree here. But there will be this ramp with a railing, and there'll be a bike locker inside. So we're going to have several different ways to park bikes on the property, as well as, I think we talked about this before, but sort of a little scooter area as such. But that's reflected, an example of what this is going to be is reflected on A901, which is this bike rack, which has a system that you can grab a bike and go to the other campus and lock it there and then go back and forth. We've also provided an EV charging station, which was requested at the last hearing, although not in the minutes, it was discussed.
Yeah, okay.
And then we've done a typical mullion detail of what we have in the building today. We're going to replicate it with a dual window system where we're replacing and keep the existing ones single pane. We've done a quick detail here of a railing at the back of the building that would be mounted with a wood post with just a dark iron railing. And at the back, we want to have this kind of grow up like espalier and kind of take over the railing on the back side. That would also be consistent with the parking lot side. These are examples of the lights that we're proposing on the exterior of the building, not necessarily in red, but that's just what they had in the photo. But a little gooseneck that would come back and just shine a little bit of light on the pathway in the building. And then we have, I think the last item would be landscaping.
Yeah, call the page.
L-1.
L1, it's the second to last page on here. So we've added some more plantings in here, and we added a tree in here. I'm not a landscape architect, so forgive me, I don't have all the right things, but you might want to take a look at this, Phil, and kind of go through it. This is the line that we're trying to kind of grow up and then get some vegetation up here so we can maximize the patio space. This is a magnolia. Magnolia. That's the same. It's not labeled, but same symbol. And then I think this was just irrigation and details for that.
Okay.
I think I covered all the comments in terms of providing information from the last hearing.
Yep.
So I think I'm done with my presentation.
Okay. Well, and I will open public comment. I have one speaker slip for Mr. DeForest. Mr. DeForest.
Yes. On the fencing, since this project is in El Pueblo Viejo, I don't think the fencing proposed fits the guidelines. I think it should be entirely wrought iron. I don't think combining rustic Spanish type wood construction, but I don't think this mixing of materials fits the guidelines. Thank you.
All right, I will close public comment, having no other speaker slips, and bring it to the commission for questions. Anybody have any questions? Commissioner Drury, have any questions?
Yes, I wasn't here for that meeting, but I've read the minutes and saw the video. One of the comments, I think, or one of the comments by Commissioner Sharp was the recession of the windows. I'm assuming that you've done as much as possible in terms of recessing the windows.
Yeah, all the windows are currently recessed as far back in the jamb as we can. We've got about an 8-inch wall, so we're going to recess those back. Yes.
Any questions, Commissioner Mahan?
Question, this canopy
on sheet
4.04, item number 12, which is a wood fascia. It's called an awning, but I would refer to it as a canopy. Sticks out, I think, about 4 feet, and so that, along with these posts, which I guess are wood also. Is there any other wood element used, or
Other than on the exterior, no, other than trees and plantings. But that would be it.
Those two items are wood.
Yeah.
That's my question.
Commissioner Sharp, any questions? Commissioner Murray?
No.
Commissioner Arias? Commissioner Lavoie?
No questions.
Commissioner Schallenberg, any questions?
Just to clarify, it's sort of the same as last time, but all windows get replaced. Is that correct?
That's not correct.
So where it says E, it's existing to remain?
On the existing elevation, the E is existing, and then on the
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't
new
see
for
that
the ones that
change in the notation.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Great, thanks. That clarifies it.
Sometimes I've done an R for replace or
Yeah,
something, which
yeah.
probably would make sense.
Or remove or retain.
Yep.
The charging station, how is that mounted to the wall? I'm assuming you're mounting it to the wall, it's not on a post?
Yeah, we need to get right up to we don't have much of a buffer between the building.
So on the site plan.
Yeah, right here. So it would be
Is it mounted on the wall?
Yes.
Not on a post?
Correct.
And approximately how big is that box?
Well, it's drawn awfully large here.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
It looks awfully small on the detail.
Yes, it's much smaller. It's not a big... Keep going. We'll get there.
You know your package better than I bet.
Yeah, it's a relatively small unit. It'll be fed from behind, and then it'll have a whip on it for charging.
So I don't know if the dimensions on here.
No, my contacts are not that powerful.
Mine don't even work.
So, okay.
It can't.
I mean, relatively,
it can't be any bigger than this.
That cord is probably no bigger than 3/4 of an inch, if that.
No, it's probably a half.
Half, yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
Go back to the site plan.
Yes. Commissioner Rios has a question.
No, I want to see the site
Oh,
plan.
okay. Oops.
I have a question.
Commissioner Murray has a question.
Yeah, go ahead. You go ahead.
Go ahead, ask your question while she's looking.
Oh, okay. Are there going to be lighting on the parking lot?
There's a couple light standards that are here and here, and then we haven't proposed any other lighting out in this area at this time, and we don't have any intention to add any.
Landscape lighting.
Okay. Any other questions from anyone? Yes.
Go into the lighting, the red wood ones. I know they're not, you said they wouldn't be red, but
Where do the gooseneck
they're not
ones?
exactly El Pueblo Viejo design.
Yeah, and I think, we sort of talked about this at the last hearing, that this building, even though it's in EPV, it sort of has this old industrial character, I think. Had industrial warehouse or
It is. It's
Did
this
you
Storage.
phrase that last time?
It is. It is noted for its industrial style, as part of one of the first railroad storage buildings, and that's why it was added to the potential list, and that's the style we're trying to maintain.
Thank you.
So we were sort of instructed last time to stay in that
Vernacular.
vernacular
vernacular.
and try not to push it too far in the other direction. But
Approximately how far out from the building do these?
they're usually, a couple 30 inches or so.
Yeah. Well, it depends on if you're lighting a sign or something like
Yeah,
that, but you're not intending it to light a sign. Okay. Any other questions?
Sorry.
They're up high.
Commissioner Schallenberger?
I meant to ask, am I not seeing the detail for the canopy/awning, or is there one?
Here's landscape now.
Or an
You're not
example?
seeing the detail. It's not here.
Okay.
All right, we'll go to comments then. Commissioner Schallenberger, I'm pretty sure you have a comment.
Provide a detail for the canopy.
When you come back to
Commissioner
consent.
Schallenberger. Go ahead, Commissioner Schallenberger.
Just positive comments. I had all I thought it needed last time was clarification. So I think the response to all the comments have been made, and I don't personally have any issue with the mixing of some wood elements. I saw some success with that at the Eureka Burger project. And I think we could use the same sort of sensibility here. So I'm in favor of the project.
Did you want to see a detail of the?
Well, I mean, my
Or
suggestion would be
consent?
sort of a final approval to come back with final details at consent would be a suggestion, but we'll save that for a motion.
Okay. Commissioner Lavoie?
I don't find the use of a gooseneck lamp appropriate on to the buildings, period, and or in the EPV, nor a very contemporary design to the fence and the canopies.
So, I'm sorry, you don't find the gooseneck or the fence and the canopies an appropriate solution for the building?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Arias?
No comment.
Commissioner Murray?
Yeah, the comments of the gooseneck lamps just don't go with this building, and as well as I guess I'm okay with the others, but the lighting's not.
Okay.
I know it's being adaptive reuse, and so they're trying to do something different.
Commissioner Sharp?
I agree with that gooseneck lighting issue and the other comments regarding the period of the building and EPV and our respect for EPV. And I'm also concerned about the bike rack design being a little too contemporary. We do have typical bike rack designs in EPV, and that certainly isn't close to being one of them. So I'd like to throw that out for comment.
Commissioner Mahan?
Yes, I agree with the comments. First of all, I think this is a great improvement for this area. And the addition of the windows, lots of windows, I think are really going to improve this building. It's a very prominent building. If you sail offshore and look in, this is the thing that dominates the picture right now. But I believe that the wood details in the fence and the wood canopy, the vernacular of this industrial type architecture would probably not have introduced wood because it deteriorates, and this is a very functional kind of architecture, so the canopy should be metal and the railing should all be metal, and I think that would be more appropriate to the vernacular of maybe the lamps. I like the project. I just think a few of these things should be massaged toward the more 1920s industrial feeling. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Drury?
I agree with some of the comments. I think that the lamps need to be restudied, that they're too round in a very linear building.
Are you talking about the dome reflector or the...
No, the gooseneck.
Or both, okay.
Everything I see up there. I'd like to see something more industrial, more rectangular. And I think that there's a porte cochere over the hotel at State and the railroad. The new, what is it, Indigo?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the hotel?
Mm-hmm.
You were involved in that,
Mm-hmm.
yes. Well, I think that's the kind of
metal canopy.
porte cochere that would work better. And I think there should be no wood in the railings either. I think that should be industrial as possible. It's a loading dock, in effect. Otherwise, I think it's a really big upgrade for that building.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Drury. Commissioner Rios?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
You mentioned that it's going to have lab facilities. What type of lab facilities do you anticipate here?
What's the product development, hardware development for Sonos, which is a local-based company, and they're expanding their campus in all the downtown.
And they are making manufacturing. I mean, when I
So it's a wireless speaker system.
When I hear labs, I think of hoods.
I think your microphone fell off.
Oh, so it did. When I hear labs, I think of hoods and ventilation systems and things like that, and what's going on in the roof and how it's handled. That's was my concern.
Okay. There will be standard mechanical systems like any other commercial building, and there will be exhaust hoods as well, and they'll all be more central to the building, which you can see on roof plan, which at the height of this building and the location in the parapets, you're really not going to see anything. But we're locating everything along the center of the building, so you know,
Thank you.
this
You've
is
answered
50-something
my
feet
concern.
high, and
You've answered my concern. I just
Okay.
That's a great.
I know
Any
how
other
things
Great,
are.
great question. Yeah.
Commissioner Schallenberger, comments?
Well, just, I guess I get a little concerned I mean, I understand that the proposed detailing is not strict conformance with the period and the style, I guess, but I get a little concerned by that when a building owner and then the architect that they hire make such efforts to upgrade and preserve a resource like this, that they're not given any latitude sort of stylistically, especially, and if it's not egregious. I mean, these are railings. It's not like it's a new wall of the exterior facade. These are minor elements to the building, and I think I think I see the tea leaves here, but I'm just concerned, with such strict interpretations. It seems to limit some architectural and artistic freedoms within the community.
Well, and it's not tea leaves yet. It may be
comment.
straw vote, but in light of that, in light of Mr. Schallenberger's comments, I'm going to take a straw vote. Who can support the introduction of wood elements on the building vis-a-vis the canopy and the railing supports, the railing posts? Who can support that on this building? Raise your hand, please. 2. Then the rest of you cannot support it. Okay, so there you have it. All right, I'm going to summarize the comments then if no one else has anything to say. Positive comments, thank you for the response to our previous comments. Provide detail of the canopy. However, the canopy should not be wood. Metal would be more appropriate. The gooseneck and I'll just address the gooseneck. The gooseneck is not appropriate for the building's style. The wood elements on the fence are not appropriate to the building's style. The bike rack design does not fall within the guidelines.
Can I ask for
Just once, and the landscape plan as presented today is acceptable. You got any questions, Ms. Feliciano? Okay, go ahead, Mr.
Can
Rao.
I ask a question about the bike rack?
Sure.
So what what Sonos is doing is they have 3 campuses. Well, they're going to have 4 soon. They want to create a bike program that goes between each one. Now, I know that we're an EPV, and I know that we're talking about traditional bike racks, but the standard bike racks that the city uses do not address what the company's trying to do, which is supporting bike transportation from one site to another site instead of driving and doing all that. This is something that they want to do campus-wide so that their employees have the ability to check out a bike and plug it back in. We've worked with transportation. They've looked at it. They've been fine with it. Now it's more of an aesthetic thing. I understand is the concern of the board here, but we're also talking about a bike rack that's a good 100 feet back against the railroad tracks on private property with no neighbors and really little visibility.
Okay.
So
Let me ask, I think we get your drift. Let me ask you a question. Is it possible for the applicant or the owner, the one that is encouraging the bike sharing, to buy locks that are keyed the same, and then that way you don't have to use a specific bike rack, so that the fob doesn't have to work on every bike rack, that lock could work with one single key? Is that something that's possible, or is that not in the program?
As far as I know, it's not.
Okay.
But
all right, then let me take a straw vote on the bike racks then. Who can accept the bike racks as proposed?
I can.
So,
1, 2.
Let's be very clear, the design of the bike
Okay,
racks.
who can accept the design of the bike racks as proposed? Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What did you want to say? I'm sorry.
I'm supporting it only because it is, just like you said, it's far away. Mm-hmm. It's a new innovative program that they're doing between the campuses, which I think is a good thing. But I wouldn't want it to be all over the place. It's just specific to this building. Mm-hmm. And because they're far away back there, they're almost like part of the train tracks. So I support that.
And hopefully they'll be filled with bikes all the time, and you won't really even see them.
See anything.
Okay, so.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Lavoie.
As for the gooseneck lamp and the fence and the canopy, it would be a much better design if the same design aesthetic was applied to each of those and inspired by the period of the building, rather than just taking it's an industrial building, we'll just slap a gooseneck lamp on. I'm so tired of gooseneck lamps. I wish they'd stop making them because they're ugly. They were only used on the back ends of buildings. They, when they wouldn't just stick a bulb in the wall, that's what they used. And I don't think they're much above that. So this applicant has done a great design on several of his other projects. The challenge is to find a lamp that's compatible with all of the stuff that's being added to this building, that it be compatible with the building.
Do you want to change the comment that I made then, or?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Just an advisory.
Drive it home. Yep.
Yeah, drive it home. That's why we don't like gooseneck lamps. It's it's gonna be the eyesore on what is otherwise a very handsome building.
Okay. I'm sensing that. Well, who wants to make a motion?
Mr. Chair,
and what will that motion
one
be?
quick comment.
Yes, comment. Mr.
As
Sharp.
I understand it, we're approving bike racks that Sonos will have in 3 or 4 or 5 other EPV locations. Mm-hmm. The same bike rack. We're saying this is so far back you can't see it's full of bikes and all that, but we're talking about C&H Chevrolet. We're talking about a couple other major buildings in EPV with the same bike racks. Locking ourselves in here, and I just want everybody to understand that may or may not be the case.
On the basis of locking ourselves in, I would not support it.
I will not support it either.
And I think that we have to look at each of those subsequent applications on a case-by-case basis. I get what you mean by
But they're going to tell us.
They're going to tell us.
These.
And
exactly.
then we're going to have to say.
EPV is EPV.
Okay. Then let's rephrase that comment about the bike racks then to say that I'm just going to float this to say that the commission finds the bike racks acceptable based on their lack of visibility from the public right-of-way. Any subsequent proposals for bike racks shall have the same considerations.
Not have the same considerations.
Have more
Mr. Chair?
Yes. Well, the same consideration that they're not visible from the public right-of-way.
No.
But, okay. Does somebody else want to attempt that?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion for a 2-week continuance for the architect to address a revised canopy design in metal, a fence design in metal, a lamp design incorporating the same metal design elements, and perhaps even a bike rack that would be appropriate in all locations in the EPV.
You mean to say, and perhaps even, and just say a bike rack?
And a bike rack, and to thank the applicant for an adaptive reuse and an appropriate improvement to this building.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, so did staff get that revised motion? Okay, then we have a maker, Commissioner Lavoie, and a second by Arias. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Yes. Correct. All those comments that I made previous, the only comment you were revising was about the bike rack and the gooseneck. Yeah, okay.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
Hold on. No. Where did I leave off? Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries.
Can we hear the motion just so I'm clear that we got all the pieces? Because there was a bunch of comments you made prior, and then Mr. Commissioner Lavoie made a motion, and then I want to make sure that...
Is it possible for Ms. Feliciano to read the motion back to us, please? Motion comments. She needs her own microphone. It's the least we could do for her.
Continue 2 weeks with comments. 1, the applicant has responded successfully to the Commission's previous comments. The upgrades are a great improvement. 2, the landscape plan as presented is acceptable. 3, we study the gooseneck lamps as what is being proposed is not appropriate within EPV. Is that correct?
Or, no, it's not appropriate to the building.
To the building.
And EPV.
4, we study the wood fence as the proposal is not in conformity with EPV guidelines. Provide detail of the canopy. The canopy and railing should be metal rather than wood so that they have more of a 1920s industrial feel. That was Mr. Mahan's comment. And we study bike rack design that would be acceptable within EPV.
But then the motion was...
Then the motion.
It was a 2-week continuance.
Yes, but the motion contains specific comments.
The motion is different.
The motion contains specific comments.
Those were the specific comments.
No, they weren't.
I thought that was the summary.
That was the summary of the comments.
That I had written down a 2-week continuance, and then the applicant shall address the revised, and this is just shorthand, revised material for the canopy, the fence, the lamp fixtures, and then you had said perhaps the bike rack, but then crossed off perhaps and the bike rack, and then you thank the applicant for the good design.
That is the motion.
That's the motion.
Okay. Thank you.
You got it. You understand it.
That's why I asked.
Okay, very good. All right. You're free to go. Get out. Just kidding. All right, the next item on the agenda is for final review of it's concept review of 608, 614 Chapala Street. Mr. Mahan is going to take over, and I will let Mr. Mahan read Mr. Sharp will take over. You will read the comments from the previous meeting. Please. I shall return.
Good idea. Let's have a 8-minute recess.
Don't forget you have to file.
When your lips possess me.
HLC meeting of February 26th back to order, and our fourth item is 608 to 614 Chapala Street. This project was last here on February 12th, and the commission made the following comments at that time. And I must say, we have not approved the minutes of this project for that part of the project for last week. Last 2 weeks ago, there was concern that with the breaking away from Hispanic architectural requirements, traditional solutions should be used for glass, openness, proportions to be more appropriate to the EPV district. The proposed inside courtyard windows and doors could possibly be consistent with an automotive-era building. The proportions should be studied. Although the awning at the street and building corner has been permitted and there for a long time, it was not on the building originally, and it is an opportunity for improvement. The building has not decided what it wants to be yet. The proposed doors, awning, existing front windows, existing parking lot windows do not fit the EPV guidelines. If a modernist expression is desired, then there should be consistency throughout and an architectural refinement along with adherence to the design guidelines. The landscaping in the parking lot needs to be upgraded. The project can proceed to the Planning Commission but should return to HLC for an in-progress review. Staff note, an in-progress review would be applicable only if the project had received project design approval. And the motion, which was continued to indefinitely to the Planning Commission with positive comments, design review, the Commission appreciates the adaptive reuse of the building, identify the existing tree on the plans, add trees to the parking lot, explore restoring the corner of the front of the building at the northwest corner, screen the mechanical roof equipment, enhance the addition to the small building, look at improvements to the building holistically. Improvements must benefit the site long-term since changes to the building remain while the current tenant will not be permanent. Use quality windows. The awning should not span over the pilasters. Consider changing the scope of the awning, eliminating the awning and its configuration. Okay, would you introduce yourselves for the public
Chair
record,
Sharp,
please?
I just wanted to point out for
Nicole
the public.
Hernandez?
Thank you. I did want to point out, we've put up the drawings that were supplied in 1984, but it does have a picture of how it looked before the alterations. And how it looked as it was a car dealership, which is the configuration it was in when it was added to the potentials list, with this beautiful, elegant, sort of swooping corner and the clear streamed windows. And just to keep that, that's for your review. And the original drawings are behind, the Windsor Sewell Murphy drawings are behind these as well, for your reference as you do your review.
Okay.
Chairman
Kip?
Sharp, members of the commission, my name is Kip Bradley. I'm the owner of the property.
Robin Donaldson, architect for Sonos for the tenant, interior.
John Beecham, architect for the owner.
Thank you.
I have the floor.
Floor is yours.
Okay.
Robin.
This is an interesting one. I appreciated the historical perspective on the building and the photograph here showing the front of the building here and the way the plate glass and the way it turned here. I've also brought photographs of the existing building, and you get a feel for what's happened over the years to the building, particularly this particular renovation. We're interested in, obviously, a building that everybody's going to be happy with, and Sonos is interested as a tenant to get the building up to a standard that the community's comfortable with. So we've gone back and we've looked at we've taken the commission's comments into consideration. We've gone back and made some adjustments and some revisions to the design that we presented last week. I'd like to make a couple comments before I get into that. One has to do with the existing part of the building here. I think if any commissioners have had a chance to go out and look at this building since our last review, or the building needs sprucing up. There's a lot of deferred maintenance that needs to be caught up with on the exterior of the building. We are prepared to paint the building and get it back to at least a fresh color, clean the building. There's parts of the building that has this ivy. It's kind of a ficus ivy, clinging ivy that goes up the side of the building. It started to kind of take over in some areas. We're concerned that when we start to paint the building and with a long-term lease, we're concerned about some of that ivy. And I've got some pictures I can show the commission about some of those areas. We heard loud and clear the concern about the awnings. We need to replace the awnings. We'd like to replace the awnings in a more historical design that's consistent with the guidelines, and I think we've got a concept to show you that goes along those lines to kind of help the front of the building, break up the proportioning of the awnings and so on. Then we've gotten, and we've adjusted the windows in the back. I described the use before and about how we want these larger openings and so on, and I've adjusted proportions and kind of gone through the comments that you made. So it might be best we just jump into the elevations.
I'm going to take these away.
Yeah, do. Right.
Oops, sorry about that.
Could I see yeah, send those down here.
Just a sec. Jeez. Can you get them?
Thank you. So I've gone to the sheet with the elevations. There's 3 elevations on the sheet. The top elevation shows the building with the revised awnings. Right now, the awnings, as you know, go across the building. What we've done is we've broken up the awnings to relate to the mullions down below. And there's a little bit of an odd situation down here where there's these, well, maybe from the photos we can tell if they're original or not. But I presume a kind of an original configuration of the windows here, broken up the awnings to relate to that. And then I've kind of broken this into segment of 3. There's 9 panels of glass here. And I've broken down the proportion here. Also then put an awning here at this entry piece here. This obviously, from looking at the photographs, this is the part that at some point in the 80s or at some point was squared off here and pushed out. There is an existing handrail right on basically the property line here in front of the building right here.
Right.
We'd like to take that handrail out. We have no idea why it's there. It's got that same kind of ficus ivy climbing all over it, and we want to just kind of clean up that whole front of the building at this point. As we turn the corner,
we zoom. City TV, could you please zoom? City TV, could you please zoom? Thank you. Let me just get a close-up here because he doesn't have the benefit of the plan right in front of him well. Okay, is that enough, Mr. Schellenberger?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, continue. Mr. Donovan.
So as we work, let's go down to the bottom elevation. So that's turning the corner on the building. This is the elevation that faces the driveway as it goes back into the parking lot that's in the back here. This is that entry piece here, awning here. You see a side view here, the thought about the awnings with kind of the straight sort of spear awnings. Breaking up these awnings here. Right now the building has 3 awnings on these windows and not on the other 2 in the existing configuration. We'd like to just restore this to awnings on each of these windows. And then as you get back in, obviously there's a pretty clear division in this building between this front part here that faces the street and the community, Then when you get back into what was originally the service bays of the company back in here, and the barrel vaulted building back here, and as we discussed before, we're converting this to an office use, an open office. A prominent aspect to this building when you're back in this parking court area here is this existing skylight that was part of the original 1946 building, which is actually a really beautiful element to the building. I've taken this kind of vertical proportioning here and transferred it down to the glazing and the doors down below. This pair of doors here, this would be the main entry to our open space in the back area here. This is kind of an emergency exit here. This window unit here, this is one that we'd like to open a little bit like a service bay door that would give that open feeling, and then keeping the rest of them consistent as it moves around the courtyard. As we move to I call it a courtyard, but the parking area back here.
Parking court.
Parking court. Thank you, Phil. And then this is that elevation to the north as you drive into the parking court that you would look at. The wall comes across here. Window units repeat across here, an exit door here. This portion down here is part of the existing building. It has a wood siding, and we're going to be keeping it a service area, and we're proposing this to kind of remain as it is back in the corner here. The intention here with the wall, by the way, is that it reads as a bearing wall, that it returns back about 9 inches before each of these openings. So you have kind of a thicker bearing wall, sort of a feel to the building.
So those are set back 9 inches?
Yeah, those are set back.
Yep.
And I think in the site plan, we haven't made any revision to the site plan from the last time that you guys saw it. It's the same configuration. So our obviously intention is to work with the proportions, work with what we have, paint it, clean it up. There's, by the way, on the front of the building now, there's an electrical box here that at some point it looks to me like an unpermitted electrical. Yeah, you can see it there, Michael.
I'll put that in front of it.
Yeah, thank you. These are the kind of things where
City TV, if you could zoom.
I think there was a phone there once.
A phone booth? What's that?
You're too young to remember those.
Hey, thank you. Hey.
So this at some point looks to me like not an HLC approved addition, and we want to take this off. And there's these kind of those halide sort of really awful lamp lights that are underneath here that we want to get rid of. The whole experience of this we'd like to upgrade, obviously, and take that off and clean that up.
And so no changes on the site plan, landscape plan?
No changes on the site plan or landscape plan outside of agreeing with HLC comments about enhancing the landscape and so on.
Bringing it up to EPV standards or bringing it up to current city standards. Okay, that concludes your presentation?
Yes.
Okay. I will open public comment. I do not have any speaker slips. Oh, I do? Okay, Mr. Sharp has some speaker slips. Okay, Mr. DeForest.
Thank you. Years and years ago, when this was put in, originally in the 40s, it was highly controversial as being much too modern for Santa Barbara, at least in some circles. And I think they tried to Spanish it up a little bit, but not terribly successfully. I would hope possibly the architects, owners could conform more to, at least on the front, the facade that's seen from Chapala Street, conform more to the EPV guidelines. I think, just from a practical standpoint, the rear area, the area that's not seen in the public, could definitely remain and be used for the reuse. I don't know when signage gets addressed. because it hasn't been indicated what kind of signage. Would it be more discreet than the Sammy's camera signage? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeForest. And I will close public comment, bring it to the commission for questions. Commissioner Drury, any questions?
Yes, I do. On the, let's see what page. Well, it's number 1 on the elevator.
HLC 5.
HLC, I guess.
Here.
That building with the 3 portholes, in the photograph, it looks like there's an actual break on the west. Yeah, on the west wall. I know one of the comments was that the awning should also break because it's a distinct architectural.
It's breaking there.
Yeah, and that line that comes down, but on the drawing, it looks like it's a continuous bar across. And I thought that there was going to be at least some attention paid to the fact that it sort of stands alone as an architectural detail. It's not just a straight wall that goes across. Isn't there some sort of a little break?
Do you understand the question, Mr. Donaldson?
You're talking about on this plane?
Yeah,
it's a little tricky.
Actually, vertically, from that point, from where the awning split on the drawing. Yeah, right there where the pen is.
This surface is all in plane across here. This surface here and these 2 lines indicate about an inch where it comes out proud a little bit, and then it runs as a band all the way across.
Vertically, it is not proud. As it comes down, it looks like it is in the photograph. So
No, we've taken some pretty good look at that.
Right. Okay.
It's an odd situation, but that's.
Thank you.
Mr. Mahan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In your upper elevation here, this obviously is curved around, and over here it doesn't look like it's curved.
Over here meaning down here.
Further down.
Number 2 to get there. There.
Is this just not been shaded in, and it should be curving?
It's just the shading. It's just the shading.
So that is curved.
That is curved.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Sharp, any questions?
None.
Commissioner Murray? Commissioner Ruiz? Commissioner Lavoie? No. Commissioner Schallenberger, any questions?
Chair Sudi? Oh, did you?
Commissioner Schallenberger has a question.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
You made comment about sprucing up and painting, and but I don't see those notes. What is the intent? Are we going to paint the exterior, or what is?
The intent is to paint the exterior.
Okay. I just see existing elevation, no work, those kind of notes. So I just in future
elevation, no work
submittals.
Yeah, no work.
And then, no, it's a comment. Thanks.
Why don't you go ahead and start with the comment, Mr. Schallenberger?
Well, I just appreciate the response. I mean, and I think the solution here is appropriate. I like the awning design and the breakups. I'm going to let others comment on the fenestration in the rear, but I think you responded to the previous comments appropriately as far as the Chapala Street facade. I wanted to ask staff, though, there was, just for the record, there was previous comments that HLC had approved the awning that was existing. But I'm looking at a drawing here from 1986, which I think is the same period we're talking about. The awning that's shown on these drawings is not what's in place there. So I just want to get on record that apparently HLC did not approve what exists on the building now. Is that true? Is this what was previously said was approved by HLC?
Yeah, that was looking at that corner. That's when they changed that corner.
Well, it said it calls out new fabric awning and metal frame.
We have subsequent drawings after that. It's been here several times.
No, I'm talking about 30 years ago, 1986.
They're probably
They
changed
might have come
or not
back.
built this way.
There's more drawings that they've had other projects. I can go get those. Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I was showing. This is when the corner changed.
I guess what I'm trying to get at is there was comment made previously that the awnings that are up there now, that we're not seeing them, they're in the photos.
Sorry.
Were approved. But I'm not sure that's really true, I guess, is what I'm trying to get on the record.
How about the question, are the awnings that are up there today approved by HLC?
The drawings that I'm looking at are from the same period of time that was discussed are not that design.
So the simple question is, are the awnings that are on the building today approved by HLC?
Chair Suding and Commissioner Schallenberger, as Ms. Hernandez said, we can look at the subsequent drawings to the ones you're looking at now. The record I happen to have here in my file is from 1986, and it says the Historic Landmarks Committee approved the body color of the shark skin Ameritone, approved change in parapet detail to match the Midas next door. So, and approved elimination of a ceramic tile. So that's all I have in my file, but like Ms. Hernandez says, we can look at subsequent drawings and verify that.
Okay. Like I said, it's a minor point to this review, but just to get on record, I don't think we did approve that.
Yeah, well, and okay.
Thank you.
We appreciate the direction you're going. Commissioner LeBoy.
If I could respond to that question. Actually, having been on this board for so damn long, that in the early days, that just because it was drawn and presented to the commission one way doesn't necessarily mean it was policed when it was installed. We were less fussy in the beginning than we are now, and have been subsequently. So while the drawing we see may have been approved and what was asked for by the commission doesn't necessarily mean that was what was installed, particularly with awnings where the frame gets replaced, and quite often when the frame gets replaced, every 5 years, and the fabric gets replaced, they just sort of like, what gap? Because it's less expensive. So I have no questions.
Okay. I think we're in comments.
Comments? Oh, I'd be
Are
happy
we in
to
comments
give
or
some.
questions? I lost track.
Comments.
Comment.
I am so pleased that the owner is going to restore this to this original photograph. I think the applicant has responded to all of our requests in a way that's approvable. I might like them better. I might like the proposed window doors better if they had a more horizontal proportion to the glass than vertical. The vertical is acceptable and per the guidelines, but in that period you often find French doors with a more horizontal than vertical proportion in the glass. And I would also be very curious to see this building without any awnings at all. That if you were to
Have
take
that drawn if you'd like to see it.
Well, yeah.
Did you bring it?
I'm not sure. I might be the only one, but I'm sort of curious.
If you see the original.
When I see the original, it's sort of like,
Sorry, just give me 1 second.
Yes, certainly.
Because it's, and again, to the period of 1984, 9, there were attempts made to Hispanify buildings, and they were quite often half-baked and unfortunate because they didn't go far enough. And I think the awnings are part of it.
So from here we'll go.
Yeah, so minus these halide boxes.
Yeah, minus the halide. We did this because we were trying to get our head around exactly what we were dealing with without the awnings, because the as-builts that we had were not accurate. So we went back and got them accurate.
Very modern. I kind of like the building better without the awnings.
I like it with.
Yeah.
Chair Suding, can I make one comment?
Are you done with your comment?
I'm done with comments, yes.
Commissioner.
Just as we move
Hernandez.
forward, I wanted to give you one thing to keep in mind. We didn't really call a historic structures report when this came at first because all of the enclosures were on the rear and not really impacting the streamlined modern front elevation. As we start to move into that, if we continue to have some concerns about if we need to keep the historic integrity, or if we're going to move away from the historic integrity, if we need to take it off the potentials list, we should probably call a historic structures report if we're going to veer away from things. Because that's the front elevation, and we weren't dealing with that before now.
Understood.
Just to clarify.
Just due to awnings?
Wait.
I'm not saying just awnings. I'm saying,
if we mess with
if
other
we're
things,
starting to question if we want to move away from the this style that it's created in and make it more Spanish colonial revival, then we might be looking at taking it off the potentials list, which brings in CEQA questions.
Oh,
Do you see what I'm saying?
No, not, so if we move it away from its modern expression towards a more Hispanic one, then a report would be required.
Right, because we could be disqualifying it for any potential historic
Understood.
resource.
So if we proceed with taking off the awnings, then we're taking off an element that wasn't on the building.
So that's fine. We'd be
no
okay
effect.
there. But as
We'd be
we
okay there.
proceed, if you
Okay.
want to, if we're moving towards a more Spanish colonial revival and changing the building, that we would really need to do some further evaluation that has been done to date.
I understand.
But I just want to, as chair sitting, I just want to ask for my own clarification as a case planner. The reason why this is on the potentials list is not because of its Spanish, any kind of Spanish style. It's on the potentials list because of the original architecture, which was, I think, as Mr. DeForest said, a modern style.
That we have the picture of before it was.
Yes.
The Windsor Sewell.
Right, the Windsor Sewell design.
Okay.
Got
So
it.
just wanted to clarify that as you make your recommendations and thoughts, we might.
We got it.
Moving along then, Commissioner Rios, any
I'd
comments?
very much like to see the updating of the parking lot landscape-wise.
But you're not prepared to show that
We
yet?
don't have that.
Okay.
But you said that you had complied with our.
They
our
will be.
request. Excuse me. Oh, that keeps falling off. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, you said.
We will be, and we
okay,
intend to.
Fine, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Commissioner Murray?
Yeah, I agree with the comments. I think you've done such a great job in responding to all the comments and cleaning it up and bringing that streamlined modern curve is good. Just seeing those original plans makes me want to go towards that. And so I would probably be another one to say no awnings, but if you have awnings, I'm also not, that's fine too.
Okay, Commissioner Sharp, any comments?
Yeah, I'm happy with it the way it sits at the present time. I think that monkeying with it further would only cause more complications and unnecessary stuff onto the building. I'm still concerned about that little addition to the used car lot building, not be too plain, but that's an easy thing to deal with at any point in time.
Commissioner Mahan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm very pleased with these changes. I think the awnings are much, much better, and I think the awnings are appropriate to the facade. And of course, they're going to be very functional because they're going to screen a lot of sunlight out. I like these proportions better than what we had last time, the additional awnings in this area. I think this is going to be a very handsome building. Something that nobody has mentioned. And this building has a great asset to El Pueblo Viejo, and that's that it's one story. And when you drive down the street, even going north, you can see the mountains behind it. So the mountains the architect should have put the mountains in there. He's too young yet to realize how important some of those things are. But the mountain view is a part of this particular piece of architecture, and Santa Barbara is losing its one-story buildings. We're very, very lucky to see this kept the way it is, and I'd be very supportive of it.
Thank you. Commissioner Drury.
Mr. Chair, I wasn't here for the meeting 2 weeks ago, but I saw the video and have read all the comments, and I'm holding in my hand the December 4th, 2013 comments, and it's under design review, explore restoring the corner of the front building at the northwest corner, which is, I think, what Commissioner Mahan was talking about, where the curve isn't shown. And I think my understanding and my recollection, I should say, of December 4th was that was kind of one of the keys to what you wanted to do with the campus, was bringing it back to what C&H Chevrolet had, what the architecture was then. It was simplified, it was modern for 1946. And I think that was, as I recall, I didn't look at that video, which is some months ago, but as I recall, that was kind of a cornerstone of what the front was going to look like. Does anybody recollect that? Because it says so in the minutes. That corner there. And I think you are still doing that, are you not? I mean, that curve
Yeah. What I seem to recall was the conversation inquired about that. I'm sorry. We did discuss that, and yet the conclusion that I recall was that we were doing all of this work at the rear. And that's why even the awning was not even considered back on December 4th, that all of the work was centered on the back, and that was where the focus was pretty much limited to.
Well, I have a slightly different recollection. It was simply that the historic front elevation of C&H Chevrolet, one of the things about that awning was that it didn't take into consideration the elevation at the east end of the building. It was a continuous line. That was suggested that be broken up, or actually strongly suggested so. And that the curved glass and the curve of the building at the front, which is really a signature of that building, was going to be retained and cleaned up, because there's a lot of stuff that's been put in place that doesn't belong. And so my understanding was, some of these months ago, that as much as possible, the elevation of the old C&H Chevrolet dealership is going to be enhanced and maintained. And I think, are we going that way? We are not. Well, if we don't go that way, then which way are we going? Into some hodgepodge from the 80s? Because I think I take also into consideration what Commissioner Lavoie said about the building doesn't know what it wants to do yet. And it's not about the stuff behind is really beautifully done. I mean, all that stuff you have in the courtyard, the parking court, is exemplary. But I think I would never suggest to Hispanicize it. I think that would be a terrible mistake and trigger stuff that you don't want to get into. But I think that it needs to come, that top, what we're seeing on the screen, without the awning, is a really kind of a beautiful elevation. And I would like to see, I think having no awning is a great idea. You probably have to put some sort of sun-proof glass, because in the wintertime the sun beats right into that. That's the old showroom, where I understand Commissioner Mahan bought his first Chevrolet, two-tone hardtop, as I recall. Hardtop convertible. There we go. So I guess my comments would be, I would like to see that elevation brought as close as possible to the original C&H Chevrolet dealership elevation.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Schallenberger.
Just that I have a little different recollection. My understanding was the applicant has a specific scope of work, and it's basically in the back. But since they were going to impact the historic resource, there was discussion of taking some mitigation measures, and a huge part of that was dealing with the Chapala Street facade. And so my understanding was that the applicant wasn't necessarily compelled to do a historic restoration, but just that they would make efforts, which I think they have, with the awnings and dressing up cleaning up the front, that mitigates the impact to the resource at the rear. I mean, that was my general feeling. I didn't know that they were necessarily compelled to do everything.
I don't think it was compulsion.
Yeah. Let me,
except on my part, perhaps.
kind of step in on the debate that's starting to happen. What is the applicant's preference, awning or no awning?
We are concerned about the heat and the glare on that glass.
So you prefer to have an awning?
We prefer to have an awning.
And you're comfortable with what you proposed, obviously, today with the awning? Okay.
Right.
Second question is, have you discussed, or are you prepared to today discuss the little single-story building?
We did make some work on that building.
Okay.
It's on the very last sheet.
Turn your mic on. Yeah.
What we've shown is trying to address the comments that were made were good and bring the scale of this down just a little bit to help match the existing building here without taking away from it. This is a special little building, but it certainly doesn't fit a true Spanish colonial shape. It is crisp edges and kind of harder lines. So we want to take we don't want to start to round that, but we want to work with what we have and then try and play this soften that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Broderson.
So this would be the view from Chapala Street, and the overall proportions are the same, but we're proposing we still have a parapet because it's our best way to deal with without competing against the existing gable. But bringing in an element here that would help accent this band, and what we're proposing here is a plaster step accent across here with terracotta banding, and then here was a step down in the parapet where our rainwater leader box would be, and then it wraps around. And part of the motivation with this is, as you look at this building, there is a banding of terracotta consistent at all stages inside of our parking court or on the Chapala Street. Everything kind of it's a very faint, thin line of this beautiful orange, and we're proposing to bring that into this small structure.
Okay. Did we have any questions on that? Any commissioners have any questions on that? Smaller building, smaller single-story building? How about comments? Commissioner Schomburg, any comments on that?
Just sort of a gut level reaction to the banding. It seems a little out of proportion. That building that it's referencing is a lot larger. So, but I think maybe a plaster detail band would be more in proportion. There's not a lot of plaster left up above the terracotta in this proposed design.
Okay.
But programmatically, I think it seems like they've tried to do as small of a building as possible off of this thing without really impacting the existing building. So,
okay,
I generally can support it.
Commissioner Lavoie, any differing comments?
I might be in a very small minority, but why do anything to this building? Just clean it up, paint it, put some nice landscaping around it. It'd be fine.
They need more square footage.
Chairman Suding,
yes.
May I comment?
Mr. Bradley.
I'll tell you exactly why we're planning to do this, and that is this is fully intended as a restroom. That little outbuilding does not have a restroom, and I would gladly put in a 50-square-foot restroom if I could. But given ADA restrictions, you are seeing an ADA bathroom being added onto this.
It would make a lovely executive office.
It would, and I would be more than happy to encourage them to go to the Volkswagen dealership when they need to relieve themselves. But I don't think that my neighbor would appreciate that.
That's the intent of the landscape.
Then how are you handling all the windows if this is a washroom?
Mini blinds.
That's unfortunate.
Obviously, some sort of window covering or frosted glass or something. But
period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Commissioner Rios, any differing comments on this single-story outbuilding? Commissioner Murray, Commissioner Sharp?
Nothing.
Commissioner Mahan? Commissioner Drury?
I don't have any comments on the outbuilding, but I'd like to come back to the Chapala Street facade, if I may, for a moment.
Okay.
Is there... are you committed to awnings, or is there an opportunity to put something flat like we dealt with in the Beacons building and the Indigo Hotel, a flat metal?
Chair Suding, I can bring out the historic one, but there used to be this horizontal band, and a flat awning could kind of carry the original horizontal band.
Mm-hmm. I have no idea where this idea came from, but it just popped into my head. And the other thing, this is a question going back, is that the direction of sunlight in the summertime is directly into that long elevation. And do you have any? Well, no, I'm thinking of the one going back, the one below your hand, into the court, into the parking court. That there's going to be a terrific amount of sunlight in the summertime.
In here.
Yeah, all that.
That's what they want.
So, I mean, for heat, some sort of a window covering, awnings.
Well, right now, there's about a 4-foot, almost 5-foot overhang.
Overhang, right.
Proposed.
Right.
From where that wall sits. and you can see the shadow line,
Yeah.
shadow line here. So we were reluctant to add another element. We think it'll be okay.
Okay. Because of the angle, everything. It's
Yeah,
quite a nice
you're right.
space.
During the summer, we've been discussing that. As it does get over in that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Commissioner LeBoy.
I'm prepared to make a motion for design approval. We can't? It's going to Planning Commission?
Yeah. Project Manager, Environmental Assistant, Planning Commission review.
Accepting or a motion to accept the design, beginning with a commendation to the owner for adaptive reuse of the building and restoration of at least the fabric of the building as it currently exists, of the windows in the courtyard area as proposed, the awnings as proposed, for the modifications to the small front building as proposed, and forward it to the Planning Commission with our commendation for good design.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by LeVoy and a second by Murray. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Do you understand the motion?
Yes, I do. Thank you very much.
Thank
And
you.
I'd really love it if you come back and restore the building, but
Okay. Please do not go anywhere. You may leave, but please do not go anywhere. I have been asked to make an announcement that Highway 154 San Marcos Pass is closed in both directions on the city side between Cathedral Oaks and Old San Marcos Pass Road.
because
I do not know why it's closed, but I've been asked to make that announcement for the benefit of the commissioners.
We were going
San
that
Marcos
way.
Pass
Not me.
and Old San Marcos Pass. So from the base of San Marcos Pass up to basically the top. Secondly, I need to remind the commission that their statement of economic interest forms are due early part of March. I believe it's March 6th. I may be incorrect, so check that date. You do not want to get penalized for that. And lastly, we are adjourning to another venue.
I can mean something to where is love? Who can say where she may hide? Must I travel far and wide till I am beside the someone who I can mean something to? Where is love?
Jeepers creepers, where'd you get those peepers? Jeepers creepers, where'd you get those eyes? Gosh, oh, get up, how did they get so lit up? Gosh, oh, get up, how'd they get to be that size? Golly gee, when you turn those heaters on, woe is me, I gotta put my cheaters on. Jeepers creepers, where'd you get those peepers? Oh, those weepers, how they hypnotize. creepers, jeepers creepers, where did you get those eyes? Gosh, oh, get up, how did they get so lit up? Gosh, oh, get up, how they hypnotize. Golly gee, when you turn those heaters on, woe is me, I got to put my cheaters on. Jeepers creepers, where'd you get those peepers? Oh, those weepers, how they hypnotize. Where'd you get those eyes? Where did you get those eyes?
Your sweet expression, the smile you gave me, the way you looked when we met, it's easy to remember, but so hard to forget. I hear